Welcome to this week's Fireside Chat with Jesse. I am joined today by Dan Levin, president of Leventus. Thanks for joining me, Dan.
Thanks for having me.
No, absolutely, man. Had the pleasure of meeting you at a couple trade shows in the last year, and was happy that you were able to sit down with me this morning. So I'm going to jump right in. For those people who might not be familiar with you, do you mind just kind of giving a career to date, if you don't mind?
Sure. I'll try to make it quick. So my name is Daniel Levin. I'm the president and co-founder of Liventus. And by trade, I'm a software developer and an infrastructure engineer, messing with computers since I was 11 years old, which I guess today that probably doesn't sound that impressive because my kids are pretty young and they're messing with computers way before that age, I suppose.
Come on, I don't even know if I had a computer when I was 11. So that's
and one of the reasons, we had a connection. We had a connection to the guy named Michael Krasny who started CDW, and we used to come home with computers. Every month we would have a new PC. This is back when, on the 186 days and 286, and then, 286 33s, and then 286 66s, and the megahertz would change, and big purchase. So every month we were kind of cycling through these things. But anyway, so at Leventus, I used to play a much bigger role in the software development side of things, and infrastructure initiatives, whether it's programming or architecting, implementing. I've personally developed a lot of different applications over the years. Built a data center, ran our organization's internal networks, and SQL Server was my jam. I would live in it every day, because I'm a data geek, I suppose. But along the way, I started Leventus 20 years ago. So along the way, my inner entrepreneurial spirit took over, and I grew the business while doing a lot of that tech work at the same time. So maybe the last 10 years or so, I was focused more on leading the business and the operations of the business. And this is my first job out of college. I came to work with my now partner, Sam Oliva. He brought me in to help his technology footprint for Beacon Funding, his equipment financing company, and ECS Financial, which he's the majority owner of that accounting firm, and those played in the equipment leasing space. And we were involved in played a heavy role in automating a lot of those systems and those companies, as well as other companies along the way. So that's my career to date. I suppose we have 100 employees and a couple hundred clients across many different industries. So yeah, how's that for 20 years of career? 21 years, maybe 22, whatever it is now. Been a minute.
So now, so being, I guess, running an organization, do you still find yourself feeling the need to put your hands on keyboard and diving back into that SQL Server to do some of that work, or are you more delegating all that stuff?
I definitely delegate most of it.
Okay.
It's like any tradesman, right? So the tradesman that gets old, and I'm not suggesting I'm necessarily that old, but any tradesman that kind of gets past that, their abilities to do things well, and they look at that younger generation, they're like, oh, wow, he's much better than I was. So I think there's some of that happens, and I think I was a well above average programmer. Certainly I can't say I was the best, but I was definitely well above average. And the benefit it gave me was the ability to understand technology, how software impacts infrastructure. I was a big infrastructure guy too. So, and then I developed a lot of business knowledge. So I was able to really bridge the gap between business and technology along the way. And that's where my technology skills really helped bring me to where I am today. So not really the exact answer to your question, but I do. The easy answer to your question is yes. I still have SQL Server open probably 4 out of the 5 days a week. I'm still plugging away doing queries, but there's 100 people here that are probably better than me at this point. But because it's I don't want to completely lose that skill.
No, I mean, I get it. I mean, I've been on the business development side for my basically entire career since I graduated college in 2003. And, as you look to ascend in organizations and grow up, it's like, I always see myself on the sales side. It's like, even if it's not my full responsibility, because that's what I'm good at, I always want to help people.
Right.
So I get it.
Yeah. Yeah. So sometimes I'll take a pretty simple problem, just that I'm trying to solve for myself, and throw it in SQL Server and just go nuts at it, and throw a lot of horsepower at a small problem sometimes just to get in there. But
hey, that's good, and that's what you enjoy. So you deserve to do that when you want to do that.
Thank you.
And then from so Liventus 20 years old, you're a global platform or global organization.
Global organization, yeah. So we, like I said, we started 20 years ago, and about 10 years ago, we opened up an office in Bangalore, India. We had a lot of employees that we had sponsored at the time from India, and just that culture. They would go back, they'd get married, have a family, and then just want to work for a company out there. Can't necessarily blame them. So after we lost a couple of the initial employees to that, we had some other employees that wanted to go back and start a family, and we said, hey, just work from there, right? Just it's no different than if you're in Florida, New York, you're just in India, just work from there. And then a couple more people ended up going over there around that same time, and that group, I think it was like maybe two people, they helped us just kick off that footprint in India in that office. And yeah, so it was about 10 years ago now. So it's an office that we own. There's a lot of other companies that outsource. These are our employees, on our policies, on our training, and part of our benefits, so it's it was a great office to open, and it's been a big part of our DNA for the last 10 years or so. And a lot of customers love it, right? Because obviously it brings costs down for them. And it's not where all of our talent is, though. We're a hybrid, so we're probably 60% of our workforce is over there. So 40% is still onshore, dispersed throughout the States. So we've got a lot of employees now, and COVID kind of separated us a little bit, but our headquarters are in Northbrook, Illinois, and then an office in Chicago. We have a lot of people in the North Carolina area. We have a lot of people in, all over, quite honestly, in many different states. But yeah, so I think you asked a little bit about Liventus. So, like I said, we have a very entrepreneurial spirit here. So, I was doing a lot of the tech work, and we branched off, and or I branched off and just kind of followed that entrepreneurial path. But along the way, we picked up and we grew lots of different clients in a lot of different industries. So not just leasing industry, but also fintech in general. We did a lot of work in fintech. We have, and we still do a lot of work in fintech, which probably it definitely increased my passion for cybersecurity. That's part of our DNA too, in terms of secure code development. A lot of the clients that we have are targets for hackers and groups that want to steal financial or steal data for financial gain, or steal money in general. So we're constantly helping our clients fight that. And part of our DNA is just that secure code development process and compliances. And I think that's a lot of, we do a lot of work in that space that other companies like ours probably doesn't do. or probably
Yep.
don't do, right? Security is often an afterthought. I talk about this a lot in speeches that I give too. So yeah, so it's a little bit more about our history.
No, that's good. And then, from an equipment finance perspective, I mean, there's such a need for that in this industry. I mean, I worked for a software company for 10 years, and it was always like, well, we can't do that. We can't connect this system to that system. Like, why would we? And I don't think it was a we can't. I think it was a not wanting to. So you go to individuals like yourself, and it's like, no, we can make that happen. You know, and it's
Yeah.
like, huh.
The easiest sales pitch to tell people understand is, we're 100 engineers, right? We can do anything. If you need automations done, if you want, your own intellectual property developed that you're going to go sell as a service, if you need to just connect a couple systems and integrate them, you got a lot of engineers, a lot of smart people that can make stuff happen, right? So
Yeah,
it's to your point, yes, a lot of people use us to enhance software that they can't otherwise enhance, pull functionality out of it, put functionality in something else, get two systems talking to each other, create APIs, create infrastructure. It's all connected. We do a lot of work in the Microsoft tech stack, Azure cloud, and the technology moves pretty quick. So in the beginning, we made a conscious decision to really only focus on Microsoft for the first probably 10, 15 years. And then, but in the last several years, we've picked up heavy competencies around other frameworks and other languages, Magento framework. That's for e-commerce, lots of other languages. As technology is changing and front-end languages are becoming more popular, we have to take on new languages, new technologies all the time. So we do specialize still in Microsoft technologies, but we branch off into a lot of other ones as well. And speaking of Microsoft technologies, I think going back to our history, I think we were the 19th company to ever implement Microsoft CRM like 20 years ago.
interesting.
Yeah. We were given them, it was such a immature product at that time. It didn't do anything that we wanted it to. And we were debating between Salesforce and Microsoft at that time. And we just chose Microsoft. We said, hey, we're a Microsoft partner. We're going to go with Microsoft. It's an immature platform, but maybe we can help them a little bit. And we had a direct line to their development group, and we were giving them all these ideas for enhancements. And it's kind of cool to see. Didn't happen right away, but we would give ideas, and a few releases later, some of those were taken and developed. So I'm not saying what you see today in Dynamics is all because of us, but maybe I am saying that. No, completely joking, completely joking. But yeah, but that was just kind of part of our Microsoft path.
I guess while we're on the topic of Microsoft and Salesforce from a CRM perspective, do you see, because Salesforce was just knocking it out of the park for, I don't even know, probably 10, 12, even still today, they're a successful organization. Do you think that Microsoft has caught them from a functionality perspective?
So I would say that they've probably almost caught them. I don't, there's definitely better people to ask that question to at my company than me.
Yeah, I was just more of a just.
But I think on a high level, they've just about caught up. I mean, you'd be hard pressed to find functionality in Salesforce that can't be done in Dynamics, and vice versa. I mean, they're pretty similar. It reminds me of the days, 15 years ago when people were saying Oracle's superior to SQL Server, Microsoft SQL Server, and then people would say, yeah, but SQL Server is like 95% caught up to Oracle. And, certainly now I'd say it's probably surpassed it. I mean, and that was part of the decision making, 20 years ago. We said, hey, Microsoft, they're not going anywhere. They're just not. They're not going to necessarily let something fail. They're not going anywhere. Let's just stay the course. And in the long run, it was a good decision. So
with Microsoft, does that require you to go to Azure, or can you host it yourself?
with Dynamics is you have to be in the cloud.
Okay.
Technically, it's I guess technically it's the Azure cloud, but it's not like you need to be an Azure cloud subscriber. I suppose you might have to for some storage purposes.
I
But
was
when you
just
get
more of a
Dynamics,
curiosity. Yeah, it was the reason I was asking was because with Salesforce, it's like, hey, here's the model. You don't have a choice, and from a development perspective and everything, you got to keep up, and constantly just the cost to maintain a Salesforce instance is a lot.
yeah, there's no doubt. And I think, with Dynamics being so plugged into the infrastructure that many companies probably already have, right? So many companies have Office 365, and they probably have Azure subscriptions. Maybe they're heavier AWS users, but they still have an Azure footprint. So it's easier for companies to adopt and understand Dynamics sometimes than Salesforce. Salesforce could be a little maybe more intimidating to understand. It's not as familiar. There's not as much commonalities. Dynamics, if you're using Office 365 and Azure Active Directory and all these things, it's just kind of, there's a lot of plug and play there. And yeah, so I think to your point, it might be a little easier to adopt. And from a pricing standpoint, they're probably 6 to 1/2 dozen the other. I mean, there's things that are cheaper on one that are more expensive than the other, and there's a lot of people studying the how to make sure that the pricing is competitive better than I do.
Yeah, I was just, one thing I see in the software space in equipment finance is everyone wants people to go to the cloud, right? They want that hosting revenue, they want the continuity and everything else. And, it's like, at what cost? Like, is it hard? It's more secure. You don't have to worry about hosting it yourself. We'll handle it for you. Maybe upgrades are easier.
I mean, security, it could be more secure. There's arguments that say it's less secure. But to your point, a lot of people want the cloud. There's tons of benefits to the cloud, but it's perpetual expenses. There's no doubt, right? We built a data center consciously 12, 13 years ago because we're like, hey, we don't want the monthly fees. I mean, this whole industry, the equipment financing industry, is built on making money on fees, right? And so they're edit that part out for the general public. So it's counterintuitive to say, hey, let me take on monthly expenses, right? I don't want to do that. So we were dead set against it, but you're kind of forced into it. So you do what makes sense to you, and every business is different. What makes sense to certain businesses, whether it's financially or just the technology piece of it, is going to be different. But the security, you're dispersing your data now across more systems. You're much more you're much more internet facing. You're giving hackers or bad actors a much larger footprint to work off of and get into your systems. People don't necessarily configure the cloud appropriately or properly or securely, and so it leaves a security risk, quite honestly, for more times than not. But it does have great tools for security. It's got great abilities for security if done properly, and then of course if you're paying for those extra things.
Well, one of the challenges that I find that people have is the access to data. Number one, from like a reporting perspective, it can be one of the challenges when you go to some of these organizations' clouds. So I'm assuming that's because of a security risk is why you lock some of that down. But I don't know what you've seen there.
In terms of locking down the data?
or just companies having access to their data from a reporting perspective, because there's some organizations, I've seen some companies in this space that have 150 different reports, and it's like, why do you need that many reports? Now granted, it was like, oh, we built that one for that 10 years ago, and it's like,
Right.
do we need that? Do we
Right.
need that?
So that's probably more like a lack of onus on, it's there. I don't know why it's there, but make sure it continues to be there, because somebody somewhere in this universe is using it, and they don't necessarily know. I think that's probably a lot of what we see, quite honestly, is people not necessarily just knowing how to get the data or what data they need. And it could be a daunting task too, right? I mean,
Sure.
that there's a lot of data there. You don't know what to do with it. You're not necessarily a data analyst. You just have maybe a business mind or a technical mind, and you're just like, I know that would be useful, but I don't know anything past that. So it's helpful when you've got certain types of analysts or data engineers who can talk about bridging the gap. I mean, you're now bridging that gap between what's going to make sense, what data is going to make sense to interpret and visualize, and how to, and what tools are going to make the most sense to be used to get me there, right? And some of those tools could be maybe automation, ETL processes. Maybe there's data that has to be scrubbed and mapped to other data sources. It's aggregating and centralizing data sources, maybe implementing some type of warehouse or mart, or when do you use certain Azure tools? Hey, and then AI is a big concept. Let's use AI. And I think AI and machine learning is kind of it's, I kind of lump it into that crypto blockchain technology, where it's really cool, you just don't really know how to use it to your benefit.
No.
But for data, AI in theory can do nice predictive analytics, but it takes a lot to maybe get you there. And I'd say before you start doing any predictive analytics, you better have really good understanding of your data as it is today. Crawl before you can walk before you can run. AI is like light speed ahead, ludicrous speed, plaid, whatever you want to call it. So if you don't have basics down and you don't understand the data that you do have, it's, that might be a little aggressive. But
no, that's fair. I mean, I was in an organization, I want to say, well, now probably almost 4 years ago, and he was mentioning that they acquired a bot, and the bot basically did the booking that it would take 3 people hands on keyboard to do. And I'm like, well, that's interesting.
And it is, it's quite interesting. And that's not, so my point is more, what we've done for companies is really, we've done a ton of business intelligence, right? And by doing that, you're really doing some of the hard part, which maybe, the AI people are going to say that they take away that hard part, but you're doing the hard part to understand what data is important to you for your business. So when you do start to throw, machine learning and AI on top of your data, you're kind of giving it a push in the right direction of what you need to be looking at. Otherwise, it's like you're going to get lost in a lot of these analyses that it's doing for you, and you don't necessarily know what's important to look at. So when you take the time to understand your business and what data is going to be important to you to make data-driven decisions for your business, that's when you can get to the point where you can maybe use more advanced tools and invest in that direction, if you even need to. I mean, get your processes down first, and the way you manage, perfect all the other areas first before you just look to the future technology sometimes.
Well, and I think of the, how long have you been going to equipment finance shows now?
4 years maybe.
So when you sit there and it's like the people, and I'm the same way. I hear blockchain, you hear certain things, and you're just like, oh, that sounds sexy. Yeah, sure, I know enough about it. And it's like, Nope. And I'm assuming it's similar to this equipment finance industry where a lot of the executives are like, oh yeah, I've read something about that, but I don't know enough. So I'm sure there's a real lot of opportunity, Dan, in this
Well,
space.
for sure. I mean, so if you're still doing your application processes with Excel spreadsheets,
Or the folder. You'll
or the
see a
folders,
folder like going
that's,
around. You're like,
listen, I
what
mean,
is
I'm not
the
knocking it.
folder?
I'm just saying AI is probably, don't go there just yet. And if you don't have any kind of automated, uh, if you don't have a good foundation of reporting that you're looking at, so you kind of know what's important to you, what are you trying to get to, what kind of decisions are you trying to make. And sometimes when you go through the process of thinking about all that,
Yeah.
that's going to really lead you to better directions. That's my opinion. There's
No, I
a
think
thousand different
there's a
opinions.
there's a definitive need for that type of work in this industry for sure.
Yeah, and we've seen business trending that way for across every industry. I mean, every industry is asking for more so for like BI and reporting more than AI. But every industry is asking, business intelligence is huge because it's much easier today than it was 5 or 10 years ago, to create and to so that's part of the tech industry. That's just a subset of the tech industry that's growing pretty rapidly is, data analysts and data engineers, data scientists, and BI developers. So
Yeah.
that's definitely a trend that's still increasing. And, like I said, it's quite powerful to be able to make data-driven decisions for your company.
Well, especially if we're on the who knows where we are in this potential recession or wherever. What do you do at that point in time? It's like, how do you increase automation, increase efficiencies? And
that's the perfect time to do it. There's never a non-perfect time to hire us, right? But in the past, when the economy kind of goes into a little bit of a spiral, companies are looking to cut costs or button down a little bit, and that often requires the implementation of technology to offset some of the work that maybe those employees were doing, or just start reinvesting in their company, right? We're going to cut some costs and we're going to reinvest back into the company. And part of that is fixing your processes so that, because if you could make it out of this, then out the other end is going to be a lot of sunshine, and you're going to want to be prepared for that. So you're going to want good processes in place and good automation in place, and so that you can just tweak one control of your business and let everything else fall into place. And that's kind of what we did for Beacon, especially. I mean, they're pretty much automated across every department, every function. I mean, it's really just it's quite a 20 years of technology automation that's helping it be very successful.
So perfect. So how far are we away from what was the movie, Minority Report, where he like walks in, he has these things on the screen, he's going like this and that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably not the best person to answer that. I think I'll tell you, I don't think we're necessarily as far away as one might think. I mean, that movie was made 20 some odd years ago, I think, and somebody thought of it then, probably even before the iPhone, right? So there's smart people knowing what's coming down the road much better than I am. As I see him do that, and I remember that movie, I've seen it once or twice, but I'm not sure how efficient all that was or not, but maybe it was.
This is more
I
of a
don't know. That's
conversation.
more.
You're just going like this with your finger and it's
Yeah.
moving and
I mean, you're doing it now on
twisting
the
and everything.
screens, right? You're doing it now on the screens, on the iPhone screens. You're swiping left and right, and you're twisting things, and so now it's just. And they have those keyboards that are light, and they're just lit on the desk, and it detects where your fingers are. So some of these technology pieces are there. I remember going to Microsoft shows actually, God, probably 6, 7 years ago, and they would show these 3D holograms for in the operating room. And, these heart surgeons would pop up a 3D hologram of a heart and be able to go into the 3D hologram and move things around. I mean, it was just the most wicked technology, 7, 8, 9 years ago, that I still don't think is really in place today. So, because it takes longer than you might think to get those big breakthroughs to be
Well, there's so many rabbit holes that we could go down if talking about some of these things for sure.
This is one of them.
That's fantastic. So I ask everyone who comes on here, Dan, to give a little fun fact about themselves. So before we started recording, I'm kind of a smart ass myself. So I see the guitar behind you, and I think Brooke has a guitar, and I'm like, oh, when's the last time you played it? And she's like, I haven't learned how to play that. So, just is that something that you do? Is that a hobby?
Yeah. So, it's a hobby. I played for like a hot minute in college, and I always had a guitar in the house like Brooke, and, I lost my ability to play it over the years. And I was teaching my kid on Zoom. I got her a Zoom lesson several years ago on how to play it. And it was really difficult for her. She was too young. She was, I don't know, 7, 6, 5, 6, 7 years old. I forget, and my younger son, who's 2 years younger than her, as I was trying to help her, got the guitar teacher on Zoom. She's sitting down with a guitar. It's really difficult, especially for kids. And then my son brings me my old guitar, and he's like, here, Dad, show her how to play. And I was like, oh man, do I miss this? And then my daughter gave up about 2 minutes later. So there I am with the instructor on Zoom and my old guitar in hand. And I was just, I turned the iPad and I said, hey, I got 45 minutes, remind me how to play. And I honestly haven't put it down since. And that was, 4 or 5 years ago. And I play for like an hour every day. I play you can't see it. There's an electric Stratocaster right there, and that's obviously an acoustic. And so can I play? I can play. I can, I'm not in a band. I probably would not, I call myself a campfire guitarist. So, there's songs I can play, and they're like, I'll convert them to the campfire version. So they resonate with more people, and they're like, oh yeah, I can pick up that tune. Because when you think about guitars, you think about a band. I'm a huge Pearl Jam fan. So there's the thing that you don't know about me, maybe just by looking at the guitar. But, Pearl Jam has 3, 4 guitars going at once. So every guitar is doing something else. So what you hear is really a combination of 4 guitars, 3 guitars. And, every guitar is doing something that's, if you isolate that one guitar, it's not going to be as satisfying as you would hope. Right? Because what your ear hears is the combination of all that music. So the campfire versions are just, blending those into like an acoustic guitar. That's what. So I still use that guitar teacher. Still talk to him like once a week. Good friend of mine now. He lives in North Carolina. Nice. And yeah, and maybe another fun fact is I helped start a charity event. I know you do. You've got a charity. I helped start an event several years ago to support a disease called epidermolysis bullosa. It's called EB for short, and EB like butterfly. So you guys can check it out. But the event that we throw, it's called Change for Charlie. We threw 2 of them before COVID. Since COVID, it's been difficult, but in the 2 that we threw, we raised $1 million, and we're going to be throwing another in-person event, I believe this March. So
Definitely
encourage you
have
to check
to
it out.
make sure EFC has something to do with. We can help you out
Yeah,
there
it'd be great.
and get some more people in the industry.
It's
Yeah, I
called
mean that.
it's called Change for Charlie, and it's really
Huh,
all the money just goes to finding a cure.
huh,
So
huh. Yep, and the financial statement. I don't know if you saw them a couple weeks ago. We were in Orlando, but that's the equipment finance band.
I did not see them. Where did they play?
Uh, I mean, I think they did a music video over COVID. But I think this one here was "Don't Stop the Leasing." It's
Good.
just it's Ralph on the keyboard. What do you have? Nate Gibbons on the drums. Chris Embaum, I think, is bass, and then Mike Kuhn is on the guitar, and Paul Bent and Alexa were singing. So if they ever need another person, I know where to
You
point them in
know,
the
if
right
yeah,
direction.
if there's an emergency and I've got a couple drinks in me, when I'm alone playing, I think I'm the best in the world. Let's get that out, right? I mean, there's no doubt about it. I think I'm, Stone Gossard, Pearl Jam reference for that. I think I'm Stone out there, right? So, but put me in front of someone, they're like, I can hear that. I'm not sure I know what you're playing, but
Whatever,
yeah,
whatever.
whatever. Yeah, I know I'm good. It's the same as when I sing in the shower. I know I'm good. I just, you know, other people might have a different opinion.
Yeah. So I guess my final question to you is, why do business with Leventus?
How many minutes do we have left?
As long as you want to go, sir.
Talk about it forever. Well, I'm the answer that other people I'm sure have playfully given is why not do business, right? But so I'll answer it in maybe a couple different points. Number one, I mean, we've been around for 20 years. We're a strong company. We really lead by our core values, innovation, integrity, teamwork, value creation, expertise. And, we're very customer focused and we look to partner with our clients long-term as a trusted partner. And I think that shows through how we've grown over the 20 years. We've grown by word of mouth. I said we've been going to these trade shows for like 4 years, maybe. Only really industry we go to trade shows for. And some of our earliest clients were startups and they relied on our technology to really build them and support them. And we had no choice but to partner with them. And when I say partner, I really don't use that term lightly. So we're partnering with them on every level to make them succeed. It's like, what can I do to help you? Right. And I think that mentality from when we were young and when, 20 years ago, that mentality of we're not going to let this fail. These clients are riding on us to take them to the next level. That mentality is just built into our DNA now. So we're really there for long-term commitments and long-term trust. We're not there for, a power grab of let's just do this project and go on to the next project. We're there to partner for you long-term. I'm part of lots of different projects at my firm. Probably shouldn't be a part of all of them that I am, but I like to have my finger on the pulse of everything that's going on to make sure that everyone's happy and everyone's getting the service that they need. And we really just do whatever it takes to serve your best interests, even if they're not in our best interests. We're there to serve your best interests, and we do. And we make sure to the best of our abilities that everything is successful. And we try to have fun along the way while we're building these amazing technology solutions for you. So I think that's why people would choose us. I mean, we're really there to earn your business. We're not there to sell you something and run. And I mean that. It's my name on the company and I've got a reputation and it's not something I take lightly. How about that?
No. And the customers that I've known that have used you have all echoed those sentiments. So that was spot on.
Well, thank you.
But thank you again for joining me this morning, Dan. And look forward
Thanks for having me.
I think by the time this airs, NEPA will be over, but I look forward to seeing you. I look forward to seeing you next week.
I'm speaking there,
in
so
Nashville.
that's gonna be really boring, I'm sure. So, people have one thought of
You were
me. Hopefully this is a little more
amazing. You were
hopefully
so
this
amazing.
is more animated than how I'm gonna be there. I'm talking about cybersecurity, which is this big of a topic, and I got this much time to talk about it. So, I'm not sure,
People want to
I'm
be
sure
in the
it'll
know, but
it'll
they don't
be
really want to know.
valuable. Well, if they
All
got
right.
questions, put my contact info on here and they can contact me. Jesse, thanks for the time. I appreciate you having me on. This is great. Nice to see you.
Absolutely, Dan. All right. We'll talk soon. Take care.
All right. You got it. You too.
All right. Bye.